Hi, my name is Taylor Walk, and I am a speech language pathologist at Cole Pediatric Therapy in Humboldt, Texas. Today, I'm going to talk to you guys about autism in regards to AAC and screen time. So, what is AAC? AAC stands for Augmentative and Alternative Communication. This can stand for a variety of things, but some include sign language, picture exchange, and high-tech or dynamic speech generating devices. So pointing, like gestures, also are included in this. Eye gaze, body or head movement, vocalizations, even if they don't sound like speech sounds, facial expressions, posters with words on them, and pictures without voice output are all under the AAC umbrella, and the options are endless. There are some myths about AAC. So one of them is AAC will prevent my child from speaking. Children are going to use the quickest, most effective, and most accessible means available to communicate. Speech usually beats any other system if it's available to the child, but we're going to talk more later about why it might not be readily available for autistic kids. Available research indicates that AAC facilitates spoken language by increasing the interaction, language skills, and providing a voice output model for speech. And then another myth is that they don't use it correctly. So what's the point? AAC children need to experience the same kinds of feedback and alternatives that verbal children receive for equally annoying and inappropriate communication, such as this.
Finish and so, a, good, that, come, over, finish, get, all, that, open, eat, that.
So that was the AAC equivalent of babbling. Sometimes communication that begins as random helps a child learn the meaning of different messages within their life. When a baby babbles da, we assume its intention is for daddy. We might say, yay, daddy, and walk over to dad or show a photo of dad. Our response is a positive way for the child to learn. Just like a baby, a child using AAC needs to explore and babble with the device. Just as an example, by 18 months, babies have heard 4,380 hours of spoken language, and we don't expect them to be fluent speakers yet. If AAC learners only see symbols modeled for communication twice weekly for 20 to 30 minutes, it will take 84 years for them to have the same exposure to aided language as an 18-month-old has to spoken language. Another myth is that AAC is just another tablet. A high-tech dynamic AAC device is a speech-generating device, not a tablet or something to play with. This is a communication device and should be referred to as such. It's important to monitor your language when referring to the devices to make sure that your child does not confuse it with a play tablet. Preferred words are device or voice. Next, we'll talk about autism and learning language. So an autistic child named Zidane from Trinidad and Tobago put together this seemingly random grouping of letters. However, his mother thought it looked really familiar. From memory, he was able to perfectly recreate this page from the book Chicka Chicka Boom Boom. This is a perfect example of how lots of autistic people are visual thinkers. If you'd like to see the video of Zidane putting together the grouping of letters, you can search Zidane Chicka Chicka Boom Boom on YouTube. There are considered to be 3 types of autistic thinking. There are visual thinkers who are for algebra, math, that type of stuff. Verbal specialists who are good at talking, writing, lack visual skills, and then pattern thinkers who excel in math and music but have problems with reading and writing. This is an observation made by Temple Grandin, who is a PhD and an autistic person. So a person can have a combination of the 3 thinking styles, but most have a predominant one. And most experts believe that the majority of the autism population are predominantly visual thinkers. more information about visual thinkers. So Temple Grandin, who is the person who I quoted before, says that my mind is similar to an internet search engine that searches for photographs. I use language to narrate the photorealistic pictures that pop up in my imagination. My mind is associative and does not think in a linear manner. If you say the word butterfly, the first picture I see is butterflies in my childhood backyard. The next image is metal decorative butterflies that people decorate the outside of their houses with. And the third image is some butterflies I painted on a piece of plywood when I was in graduate school. Then my mind gets off the subject and I see a butterfly cut of chicken that was served at a fancy restaurant approximately 3 days ago. The memories that come up first tend to be either early childhood or something that happened within the last week. A teacher working with an autistic child may not understand the connection when the child suddenly switches from talking about butterflies to talking about chicken. If the teacher thinks about it visually, a butterfly cut out of chicken looks like a butterfly. So visual thinkers do think in pictures and see things either in their mind or physically in order to process information. And some of them may even have a photographic memory. The next type of thinker, verbal specialists. So these are very good at learning languages and they have an affinity for words, literature, and speech. So they love to make lists and will often and easily memorize usually mundane things like alphabet letters, numbers, colors, shapes, TV show scripts. So those are your kids who are repeating lots and lots of things all the time. And the last type of thinking, pattern thinkers. So they are a more abstract form of visual thinking. Thoughts are in patterns instead of the photorealistic pictures. They see patterns and relationships between numbers most often, and they will relate the things back to numbers. All these types of thinkers are supported by the use of AAC. Visual thinkers will learn language by pictures, verbal thinkers will learn by repeatedly pressing the word to hear, and pattern thinkers will be able to learn the motor plan, aka how to say it on the device. Last, we're going to talk about screen time. So there are different types of screen time. So as we just discussed, most autistic brains love visuals and patterns, which screens provide in abundance. So this makes the autistic brain wired to love screens because of the activities they complete are often programmed similarly, repetitively, and inflexible. The 4 types of screen time include social, which is like video calling and messaging other people, passive, which is what most people think of when they think of screen time, watching TV, playing on the phone, video, computer, tablet games. Then there's interactive, so using technology to identify something in real life, taking pictures of reality. And then last is educational, like completing online homework. Educational does not include TV or YouTube shows, even if they are educational, those are still considered passive screen time. So negative effects, screen time is associated with a couple of things like attention problems, oppositional behavior, inactivity and sedentary behavior, poor sleep, especially if used right before bed, and then further delays in speech and language skills. Screen time has a more pronounced effect on autistic children compared to neurotypical children, even at low to moderate usage. Brain scans of video gamers look different than non-gamers. They look like the brains of drug addicts and can have physical shrinkage of brain tissue. They do worse on tests involving memory and making decisions. Some research indicates that if your child is already genetically susceptible to autism, screen time can cause further delays as the screens are pulling brain resources away from the parts that need the resource to develop appropriately. However, all research does is prove correlation between negative behaviors and screen time. It does not prove causation, but there is most definitely some sort of link between the two. Recommendations in regards to screen time. So the AAP has a recommendation of less than 2 hours of screen time daily, and this includes the phone, tablet, computer, and TV combined and no screen time at all for children less than 2 years of age. Video calling is okay for children before 2 years of age, but the main thing to think about is just avoiding the passive screen time. That's the main thing we want to avoid. We don't want to bribe the children with screen time. We want it to be part of the daily routine of life. So, if you run errands every other day, then you tell your kid, okay, you get 10 minutes of phone between breakfast and us going to run errands. And then you get 30 minutes of TV time when we return, but make sure it's a part of the daily or weekly routine. Some things that you can try to do to make the screen time as best as possible is, if you use it, try to make it educational, even though it still counts as passive screen time, or use it for social purposes like calling friends and family. You can try pre-downloading shows ahead of time to limit the scrolling, which is what happens with the short attention spans. Kids could just click through as they want, and they're not able to sit and attend to something for an extended period of time. Try to pick slow and reality-based shows and screen activities. And then we don't want to use this as a reward or a pacifier. This goes back to making it part of the routine and schedule. And then the most important thing, if you notice your child will ignore other activities or interactions for screen time, that's the time that you need to intervene. You are the parent and you are in charge, not the screen. So shows that are considered okay in terms of screen time. The reason that these shows are considered okay is because they are much slower paced and more reality based in terms of how they act. So they are, and then some of the other ones that are bad, like Coco Melon and Baby Einstein. So they might seem educational, but they're one of the reasons why screen time is so addicting. It's because of the visual overstimulation and auditory stimulation that the kids get, and then the autistic ones really seek that stimulation. So that's why it becomes so addicting. Our last thing, so AAC, high-tech speech generating devices, are a type of screen time. So, but they are a type of social screen time. So this means that it doesn't have the same effect as other types of screen time, since they're receiving a social reward for their effort, and they're not just passively sitting there not engaging with it. We want to model appropriate use of the device whenever possible, so that way it doesn't become a passive object. And then we also want to make sure that the child understands the difference between the device and a play tablet. Here are my resources if anyone would like to look further into what I just discussed. Thank you so much for listening. I hope you're able to gain something from this. Again, my name is Taylor Walk. Feel free to reach out to me with this email. I am happy to answer any questions, or if I don't know the answer, I will refer you to someone who can help you. Thank you very much for listening.